Hi, it's Cynthia. I want to talk a little bit just about what I'm seeing come up with those that I'm connecting with lately, and it is around implementation of the practice of communication, or just shifting communication and how to do it, especially if all you're doing is reading books and taking courses, because um, a lot of what happens is we gather information. So we read all these different books on communication. We sign up for all these different courses on communication, and we just gather information. And it's not to say we're not learning while we're digesting that information. We are. We are definitely learning. It's more, how do we then take that material and begin to apply it into our day to day? How do we begin to live it, right? How do we internalize it so much that it becomes our default way of interacting? And if doing this on your own, right, without my help or a mentor or a program that holds you accountable, how do you begin, right? That's the biggest question, because generally it feels so overwhelming. And how do you start? And this is what I want to give you some tips on today. And the first piece is to commit, right? You're going to pick a day during the week, a date where you are going to begin. And on this date, you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to, do your morning routine. And when you are in front of a mirror, you are going to commit to speaking to others consciously, clearly, and concisely, right? If that's what your want is for the day, right? Whatever your want is for your communication for that day, that is what you are going to communicate to yourself in the mirror. You are going to commit to yourself that you are going to listen to others when they're speaking, that you are going to really hear them. You're going to really be present for them. When you get distracted from the conversation, you're going to notice that you're distracted, and you're going to simply note it in your head, and then you're going to come back to the person that you're with, right? You're going to listen to them. You're going to allow them to be heard. And you're going to hold the space for them, right? Maybe what you're going to commit to in the morning is allowing them to be uncomfortable and allowing them to be feeling what they're feeling and not trying to fix it or solve it, but holding the space for it, right? Or maybe you wake up and you feel ready to pay attention to how you're using silence and see if you can use silence in a way that really opens up the conversation, or, to use silence when it's needed. Maybe people are not asking you questions. So do you need to respond, right? So you're going to pick a date, and you're going to, in the morning, commit to your communication practice for that day. And during lunch, you can come back to the communication practice. You can check in with yourself, right? And you can recommit again. And in the evening, when you come home, you can check in with yourself and recommit again. Because it is a practice, it's a daily practice, and it's less about viewing this as overwhelming and huge, and more about bringing it down to the ground and making it very practical, right? Because you have so many moments to practice, because we're in communication all day long. So it's turning your day into your experiment, into a communication experiment. And this is what I highly recommend doing if you are going to be going at it on your own, in terms of taking the information and learning how to apply and to implement. This is a way to keep you committed to the practice, And it's also a way for you to implement the practice without it feeling like you have to sit and study, right? Once you know the material, you know the material. Your brain and your communication muscles don't necessarily know it because they have to practice it. So that is what waking up each morning, committing to the practice, and using that day to experiment with the practice, noticing what's working, what's not working, noticing how you're interacting, how you're not, what the feeling is around it, right? How do you feel around certain people? Around certain people, do you notice that you exaggerate more? Do you notice that you gossip more? Do you notice that you just feel really weighted down and that you get way absorbed in what is their responsibility, right? Is it more difficult to do on your own? Yes, because you're not being held accountable. However, you have the tools and you have the knowledge to be able to do it. So this is really to let you know how you can go ahead and implement the practice or implement, any type of information that you read around communication, right? It's easy for me to say, just begin. It's not so much about beginning, but it's about committing. Your willingness to commit is very important. Okay. We'll connect soon.